Prepare to be amazed as two men, legally classified as vintage, compete to recall pop culture nonsense from a time when parents smoked in grocery stores and Ronald McDonald roamed free, judged and scored by artificial intelligence. Chris and Jeff sift through the glorious wreckage of a gleefully neglected childhood, hoping to find meaning. Nice pull, because if we don't remember this crap, you know damn well someone's gonna try and reboot it and make it way worse.
Well, there you go, Chris. Halloween is behind us, and that means what? That means that what feels like 2 weeks from today, it'll be Halloween again. But for now, let's live in the aftermath of Halloween. Chris, did you have anyone? You have an awesome house, and for those of you, we're not going to give away Chris's address because he would be mobbed by fans. But Chris is lucky enough to live right by the coast. He can actually smell the ocean from his house. And I'm just thinking there must be a lot of kids that come up and down your street. How was the traffic on trick or treat night?
You could be thinking that, but you'd be wrong because I think, maybe this is something we can discuss a little bit later. I think trick or treating, and believe me, I think it's not what it used to be. Not for what we talked about, like the uncomfortable costumes and the urban legends and the angry old men up the street. Although maybe now I'm that angry old man up the street. I think kids. I think I did read one serious article, and I have to throw that out there, throw that right at the beginning, is that it is harder to own a home. Homeownership skews older, and there are fewer neighborhoods with lots and lots of young kids. So, and my neighborhood is kind of like that. So, to make a long story a little bit longer, didn't have a ton of kids. We usually get about 40, and they start early. It's not even dark, which just astounds me. It's like, what are you doing? Come back when it's dark is what I want to say. No, we probably had about 40 kids, and it was done by 8 o'clock.
It's the only night of the year where you can say to little kids, please come back to my house when it's dark. I guess that's the only scenario where that's okay.
And I will give you candy. Come back when it's dark, and I will give you candy. So, and
That's right. That's right.
but I think,
Yeah.
I think they have things called trunk or treat,
yeah.
which that people go to schools and they at parking lots and they just go to cars and trick or treat. It's not what it used to be, just like everything else. But that's the theme of the show, pretty much, right?
I work with a guy who's a lot younger and has a little kid, and he took her to trunk or treat, and yeah, it's like a tailgate party without alcohol. Well, there probably is alcohol, Chris. If there's a
There's
bunch of
probably
kids running around, the parents are but
there's
but it
parents.
is you're just going from literally from trunk to trunk.
Uh-huh.
And they hand out the candy. I get it. If you're in an area where you're not necessarily going to get a bunch of candy, you're in an apartment complex or something weird,
Mhm.
or you're near Chris's house where only multi millionaires, the top 0.5%
Oh,
could
yeah.
possibly. No, I'm kidding. It's not quite. But then yeah, then I guess that might
Oh,
be a good
sure.
option, but it just takes away all
Mhm.
the mystique. It takes away all the fun. It's just and by the way, I'm not even sure having a bunch of kids lining up next to people's trunks is a good thing. Again, all I can think back is to the 70s and all those horror stories you would hear, right? About people disappearing on a lonely road when the car pulls up. It's like, you know,
Exactly. If I wanted to do trunk or treat the right way, maybe I would get, like, a white windowless van, right, with, like, no license plate, and then see how many kids would come up to that. But, no, I wouldn't do
that's
that,
right.
honestly. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a
That's a
joke.
joke. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's behind us. And
Yes.
I was really pleased, Chris, that in my algorithm, I saw not one, but two or three different comics, stand-up comedians who I would say are probably at least 15 to 20 years younger than us, but they still remembered all the things that we talked about on the show, right? The shitty
Mhm.
masks, the little slits in the mask where the tongue. And I guess it's just kind of heartwarming to see that people that you and I would consider substantially younger than us
Mhm.
still have a little bit of a memory of some of those Gen X things. And that brings us to our mystery guest today on the show.
Ooh.
Chris, did you even know there was going to be a mystery guest? I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, you told me there was a mystery guest. You did. So
Did I know that I told you that? Maybe that's a better question.
maybe you
I don't
did.
even remember what are we talking about again? Halloween? So yeah, this person that I wanted to bring on the show is only 26 years old, Chris. So that would be, oh boy, that is
Wow.
26 times 3. I don't know. That's 30, 40. Oh boy. I don't want to do my
Hey.
math there. That's like yeah, that's a lot younger than us. Um just because they are substantially younger, this
Mhm.
person does have a lot of memories that are very similar and a lot of gripes about things that happened back in the day when they
Oh,
were young,
gripes are good.
which is now kind of pissing them off. So I think this person has a lot of the same grumpiness, a lot of the same vibe as you and I, just because they were
Uh-huh.
born in a little bit of a different time frame, right? Which would be the absolute end of the 90s. So without further ado, let me go ahead and open up the liquor cabinet here. Ladies and gentlemen, the mystery guest for today is none other than my son, Jarod Thill. Jarod, welcome to the show.
What,
Hey, thank you. Thank
Jared?
you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been listening for a while now, so
Jarod has watched more than one episode of the show. Jarod, how many of the Nice Poll podcasts have you actually absorbed or watched or listened to?
I would say 73. At least 73. I think I'm up
Uh,
to date right now.
wow.
Chris,
Okay.
reactions to that, Chris. I know your brain must be spinning.
Here's the caveat is that it's audio. I'm not watching the videos. I'm just listening to it at work.
Oh, okay, good. Well, that makes it a little bit better. Yeah, all right.
I do sneak a little peek. Sometimes I switch to video when I'm in the restroom and I'm like, "Oh, there they are. They're still there."
Okay, there they are. Gotcha.
Well,
Yep, that's
well,
them.
just
Don't need to see that again. Click.
yes, first of all, welcome officially, Jared, to the show. Number two, yes, it's astounding that you would get through. Yes, you said 73. Yes, that would be all of them if because you did. That's all we're up to, right? We're up to
That's
this
right.
is that was the last show. We're at 74. I can tell you, and I know you have a brother, um, but I can tell you that your 73 um, viewings slash listenings of the show combined and make up more than my wife, my son, and my daughter. So, well done to he's probably the number one super fan and participant. And of course, it's great to have you here. And you listened to 73. Uh, we've obviously kept your attention. Regardless, I don't think your dad could have made you listen, but you've probably got some good things to talk about. So I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to have you here.
Well, Jarod, I have a question for you, and this is going to sound kind of funny. Why haven't I asked you this before? But why do you listen to the show beyond the first episode? Now, I would imagine the first episode, it's like, hey, it's my dad. I'll take a listen, see if it's any good. But there's something
Yeah.
about it that you enjoy, right? What do you think it is that attracted you to the show 72 more times?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm at work. So every now and then there's this little blue dot that appears by Nice Poll. And then I'm like, oh, there it is. There's another one. And then at some point, I mean, because I treat every podcast like that. So at some point, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot my dad's on this podcast. And so it's just
There
it's
you
just
go.
another podcast that I listen to. And then there's a bonus because I know who's on it. And also, I think you guys are pretty funny, so it's fun to listen to.
Right on. And even though we're making references that probably most of them you don't have any first hand experience with, that doesn't seem to be a problem, I guess.
No, I mean, I know generally what you guys are talking about. Um, I've at least heard of every single thing, because when it comes to, like, people your guys' age, like Gen X slash the boomer generation, um, yeah, they love to make references nonstop every day to stuff that they've seen or watched. So at some point, I know everything. Like, I know everything, I'm just not an expert in everything.
Right. So when we talk about everything from Sid and Marty Croft to what the hell is up with this new generation to back in my day, I was throwing M80s at people. you're like, yeah, I've already been exposed to all of that. Let me just hear the details of this specific adventure, right? Nothing new there.
Yeah, and don't forget the time that you and your friend threw a giant ball of potassium into a lake right next to somebody who was fishing, right? You remember that?
Yes, I do. I don't think
I
that story has made it to the Nice Bowl podcast.
It hasn't. It hasn't. Yeah, I could, but I think you've.
Yeah.
I know a lot of stories about you, and again, Jared, I've known your dad a long time, and I've learned a lot. We've both learned a lot over the course of 73 episodes about each other. But let me ask you real quickly. Then again, do you consider yourself unusual in your generation? Is that you do have these same sort of interpretations and these same sort of affiliations and relationships with the things we talk about. Are you unique, or do you have other friends who feel the same way, or go, "What the hell are you talking about?" Are you an outlier, Jared? I guess is my question.
I would say when it comes to me and Hayden, I'd say I probably know a little bit more random things than he does. And with my friends, they know some stuff too, but I feel like the way I collect information is different than other people, which
Mm-hmm.
is can be a blessing and a curse. So I
Okay.
would say, yeah, I'm definitely probably an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just remember things that don't matter, kind of like someone from like the 80s.
That is the show.
That's
That is
it.
the
Yeah,
entire show. You just
That's it.
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and for the listening audience, when he was mentioning Hayden, that is my older son. So he's older than Jarod by a few years. Well, Jarod, one of the main reasons we brought you on the show, or at least I brought you on the show here, and kind of surprised Chris a little bit, was again, you have a lot of, oh man, here's the things that I miss. Man, back in my day, right? And so for Chris and I, that's kind of funny because you're a younger guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to start with your story that you just told me this morning, right? About you and your friends trying for nostalgia's sake to jump on a game of Halo, which should have been
Mhm.
very easy. But can you break down how it went from a simple thing into the same kind of grumpiness that Chris and I feel every single day?
Yeah. So first, I'd like to ask you, Chris, do you know like he means by like we're trying to play in Halo?
Yes, I do know what Halo is. Um, I mean, and I'm not 26, but I have a 21-year-old, and a matter of fact, I remember actually getting Halo for. I think we have like the original X. We have 3 or 4 Xboxes. We have almost every iteration, and the first trying it, and apparently at the time he was a little too young to play Halo. But I didn't let that stop me, of course. And so yes, familiar with Halo and Master Chief and all that stuff. Yes.
That's awesome because it's funny how you say that he was too young to play it because it came out in 2001, and then by the time Hayden and I got to it, we had to rent it from a store. And no one cared or looked at the box or said, "Ma'am, this is rated M for mature. Your kids are
Of
in
course not.
kindergarten and third grade."
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't a problem. So we played it, and we're like, "Oh my god, this is the best game ever!" And so
Mhm.
that's where I have nostalgia from that game. And so, like 20 years later, I'm at my friend's house, and we're trying to just play the game. Just 3 people play the game together because you can do that back in the day.
Mhm.
And so what happens is you have to play this specific version of the game where it has all the other games tied into it. So it's a giant bureaucratic mess. And so the first game we're trying to play with 3 people, but you can't because back in the day, you can just plug in 3 controllers. There you go. But now it's like, well, okay, so you have an account, but do the other 2 guys have an account? Because if you don't, now you can't play Halo anymore. And so
There you
yeah,
go.
we had to do like this whole like we had a laptop, 2 monitors, and then we're trying to find a mod. We
Jesus.
had to search the internet for a mod to install in the game's files to let us play split screen, and that didn't work. So we're like, screw it, let's just pass controllers around. It's like it's ridiculous.
Chris, can you now see that Jarod is our spirit animal? That all the same frustrations he has back in my day, right? And my favorite part of the whole story is, Jarod, what what would what would military missions be without bureaucratic interference, red tape,
Mhm.
and corporate nonsense? That is the entire military experience. So if anything, one could say that the game has become way more realistic over time,
Mhm.
right? Whoa, hold
Right.
on. Don't go on your mission yet. No, you guys have to, we got to talk to Congress, and then we got a senator over here, and that has to be put through, and you guys are all need to know. Now sign
Mhm.
over here. Yeah, it's like, I
Exactly.
don't know. Yeah, right.
And I love the fact that number one, back in his day was like 2008. When he was trying to first play this game. Again,
Yeah.
at much, you and your brother too young, and again, hey, I've been there, done that, but yes, to literally have something as simple as a video game, you just want to turn it on and press play, and I think that's partly why. Again, and I don't know if you've ever seen these. I have, and it's actually right to my left, I have this sort of home version of Asteroids, okay? And it's smaller and everything else, but it's an actual Asteroids, the interface. You can play like I was actually playing the game, like your dad and I did, you know, in the 80s, let's just say. I'm not gonna go farther back than that. And the thing about that is this is the simplicity, is it's exactly the same. You plus one player, two player, and you play the game. But if I were to go on to, yes, have a Xbox and log on, yeah, I don't even know. You're absolutely right. It's funny to see that those things have changed to that regard, that you do have a memory of, it didn't used to be like this. It shouldn't be like this. Why did they do this? Because we ask ourselves these questions all the time. So you're getting mature there, and I know, for your young age, Jared.
Well, and I was just going to say, Jarod, if this had been our day, actually, it just would have been a
Mhm.
stand-up game that had
Mhm.
like 4 joysticks in front of it, and all you would have had to do was put in
Right.
4 tokens and then
That's
Mhm.
just go click, 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 select 3 players or whatever, and then you'd be playing. So I don't know. The analog world does have its advantages, despite what some people might think. That's all I'm
I'm
saying.
glad
Yes.
you said the magic number, Dad, which is 4. And so, Chris, do you remember the original like black Xbox? Do you remember how many
Mhm.
controller ports were on the front?
I believe there are 4. They're like 4 wired ports, right?
That's
Yeah.
like 4 is a good number, right? It's even.
Mhm.
It's divisible by 2,
Mhm.
another even number. And so
Mhm.
you'd think you plug in 4 controllers, 4 people can play, right?
Right.
And that's exactly what it doesn't do nowadays. Now, even when you buy a console nowadays, you only get one controller and you
Mhm.
can't play together split screen in the same room.
I'm thinking back to less than 150 years ago when people were dying of yellow fever and typhoid and just bad drinking water, which they still die from today. And I oftentimes think, yeah, that's one thing, but look at us. That gaming system has 4 ports, and only
Mhm.
3 of them can technically be used. So take your dum-dum fever and your
Mhm.
dysentery and your measles, and F you, dude. Smallpox, nothing, buddy. Let's go back to the good old days when you had 4 ports.
The problems of yesterday are not the problems of today, and today's problems are the 4 controller port issue.
And the more things change, the more they stay the same, I would say as well. Yes.
I'd rather have typhoid or yellow fever than have to buy 3 different Xbox accounts just to play one game.
You've made that clear. If anything, Jarod, you've made that abundantly clear. But Jarod, let's take it one step further on
Okay.
your rant here, because I know you mentioned to me that back in the day you and Hayden would rent those games. But let's talk about renting things in general. How do you feel about that? How has that changed over time?
Well, back in the day, I'm sure you guys, because you guys have had kids, renting, like,
Yep.
yeah, renting back in the day, you'd go to Hollywood Video or what was the other one? Blockbuster.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so you'd go in. It's a whole thing. So after school, you are like, oh, let's go rent something. Let's go out and let's rent something. And so that's what we did. We all hopped in the car, the Windstar. We went down to the
Ooh,
rental store.
nice pull.
That's right.
Yep. The 1999 Ford Windstar Classic. Okay. We all went down and we went down to um, ours, particularly, Chris. I don't know if you're familiar. It was a Hollywood Video that was
Mhm.
also part of Game Crazy.
Oh, okay.
And so there's the rental section, the Hollywood Video rental section with all these cool DVDs and VHS tapes because they were still VHS tapes. And I would always wander around because I'm a little guy, you know? I'd see all these like weird videos and stuff. And that's how we first saw Napoleon Dynamite. My dad's like, "Oh, I heard this movie was really funny. Let's get this." And it was like on the shelf. And I was like,
Mm.
"Whoa." And so that's how we got that. But yeah, so renting, you would bring it up to the counter and as you're waiting in line, there's all these snacks, all these wonderful little sorcerous boons that you could pick from, you know? And you could have them. They're yours. You know, like the Act One popcorn. You've got those weird little crunchy poppers. Um, Choco Taco. You name it.
Ooh, Choco Taco. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you rent it, and then 4 days later, you better come back and put it in that little slot, or else you're going to be charged another $7.
But nowadays, I think you were mentioning what has happened to the world of renting.
The world is built around payments, like monthly payments. There's no more. Can you just like go? Here's $4. I have four $1 bills. I would really like to see Nacho Libre tonight. So, you know,
That's
that's
right.
not gonna happen.
I have questions for you on that. But,
Yeah.
I never thought about that. That's actually very true, right? Nowadays, everything wants you to subscribe and everything is subscription based. You can't just do a one-off of anything. You can't just say, "Hey, let me watch this one movie one time." No, you gotta pay, right, Chris?
Right, and then it's also create an account and a login and a password and, like Jared mentioned, put in your credit card information, and it's just, like, really it's like and every time it's like, every time something comes up, download the app, and it's like, "I don't want another app. I don't want another I don't need another password. I don't want another, what email address do I use?" And it's exhausting, whereas Jared actually, describes our rental utopia, which is like we had our little laminated card in our wallet, right? And that's all we needed. Our little Blockbuster card, our Hollywood video card, and we're in and we're out. Maybe we grab some red vines along with the Choco Tacos, but that was it. And you're right, 3, 4 days later, and it was done. And you never worried about what was to show up the next on your credit card bill or what just got renewed automatically or what fee just increased.
I'd also, you guys might have mentioned this before, but I'd like to touch on if you went to Blockbuster, chances are you're going to get a VHS tape, right? Because those were
Mhm.
almost out of style. But God forbid if you rent a VHS tape and you come home, you put it in the VCR. Yeah, you dust it off because even back then they were still dusty, even though they got plenty of use. There was still dust on it for some reason, and it's just already the end of the movie because the person did not rewind the movie.
Oh, they were not kind. They did not rewind.
I know one of the things that Chris and I had talked about 10 or 11 episodes ago. Chris, this was way back when we were talking about malls and how the mall experience had changed dramatically from when we were kids. Jared, I know you were mentioning to me just this morning as well that you're seeing a big difference now in inside world and outside world. Expand on that a little bit on how things have changed when it comes to going to the outside world.
As a little kid, you would go outside and there's always things happening, right? Like you go outside, someone's playing outside, someone's mowing their lawn, there's like a party happening. For some reason, there just randomly be like, what are those big inflatable like bounce houses?
Yep,
You would just
everywhere.
find a bounce house. When I was a kid, you could just find a bounce house, go walk over, and they'd be like, "Hey, here's a goodie bag. Get on the bounce house." And that's happened to me several times. It was a different era.
Wow, I'm glad we still have you and we didn't lose you to it's just where we went right back to the beginning of the episode. Get here's some candy, kid. Get in this bounce house immediately.
Yeah,
A bounce house
that
that,
that
again, to Chris's point, looks like an unmarked
Eh,
van. But yeah, okay, go ahead.
yeah, that was like our next door neighbors were down the street. It was like
Okay,
right
yeah,
around the
yeah.
corner.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, it's just everyone. I don't know. This is obviously everything. This happens to everyone when they get older. Everyone's just like gone. You know, like
That's
I'm
true. Yeah.
since I'm visiting. I'm visiting from Pennsylvania. Every time I come
mhm,
here, it gets quieter and quieter.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like,
mhm.
wow, that's crazy. Everyone's gone. They're all off doing their own thing. Um, even like in places where I used to go, like third, you guys know the concept of third spaces, like libraries and like parks
Sure.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Those are just like empty. So I'm like,
mhm.
oh dang. So it makes you wonder, like, what is the new place where new families are having, like, making memories, you know? Like, what's the new spot? Because it was where we lived for a while, Dad, but now it's somewhere else.
I'm gonna guess that a lot of people are keeping it limited to come over to our house in our backyard, and we will hold a barbecue or event and go swimming. But you're right, man. I mean, Chris, is this something you might have noticed over the years too? Jared, Chris's kids are a bit younger, right? Well, your oldest son is in college.
Yeah, my son obviously a little bit younger than you, but you talk about the spaces and the things that are empty. Again, I don't know if you feel this way. He thinks a mall is a complete waste of time, space, energy because it's like, what do I need to go here for? I can get it all. And it's not even, and I think it's devolved to the point, not even like I can get it, I can be on my computer. And others like, I could be on my phone. You don't even have to be, on a computer. It's gotten so to the point where you're gonna be able to just think it and something's gonna show up. But to the point where he thinks just like that.
When I was little, we would go to the mall, our major mall. I won't name drop it because it's that sacred of a place, but, you know.
The Temecula Promenade Mall. I don't know if that's that sacred, but okay.
Yeah. It's like it was like the mecca for families in the early 2000s. So we would
Mhm.
go there, and, as soon as you walk in the mall, it smells like lemonade and pretzels, you know, because like Wetzel's pretzel. And then you'd get to this weird section. This is like one of my weirdest memories. There was this play place, this little kids play place, and it was like this little forest, this fake forest, and there's a gigantic tree. And then once every hour, the tree would start to sing and it would open its doors. And on the balcony, there was this weird mother bear animatronic, and all the
Mhm.
kids would gather around at the foot of this tree trunk, and we'd listen to her tell us stories. And it was like it was so bizarre, but, back in the day, it's like it was kinda magical because it's like you would never see that nowadays. And I was like, "Dang, like, that was really fun."
And then, Chris, they would lure the kids into the tree itself and down the steps into a basement. I just feel like every single thing on this today's show, it has something to do has has something to do with luring. I don't know why, it just seems that way. Yeah.
Next year on Dateline, you know.
Kids don't like danger, but they like the implication of like, "Oh, something's mystical happening," you know? You know, something weird's happening, let's, like, pay attention. It's kinda like Halloween where you don't wanna be killed per se, but you do like the idea of, being in a weird, different place.
I'm pretty sure I don't wanna be killed at all, but, yeah.
All I could hear was in my mind was hear that Dateline intro for what you just said. Once upon a time turns into a not so happy ending. You know, it's like you could just already write all of the a real grim fairy tale occurred today in the Promenade Mall. Yeah, it just writes itself.
He seemed innocent, except for that DNA. Oh, that pesky DNA.
Yeah, long story short, there were a lot of people there, and everyone was, like, doing something. It was kinda
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, and block parties too. I don't know if you ever had that, Chris.
yeah.
Oh, sure.
Like, at the end of the school year, everyone, like, has a major party, like, at a cul-de-sac. Did you guys ever do something like that?
Not at the end of the school year, but there was, like, 4th of July and that kinda stuff, but yeah, but now, yeah, you know, I think people definitely out of their house and in the streets as your dad and I have talked about many, many times, at a very young age, at an
Yeah.
unsupervised age. So it was just more than normal. A lot of times we didn't wanna be anywhere within, visual distance of our parents.
I like how you said in the street because I recall our cul-de-sac was pretty big. We had a lot of families, and every year at the end of the school year, we had this giant block party. Like everyone brought food, and there was like giant jump castles. And for some reason, they always played two songs on repeat. It was "Dancing in the Street" by
Mm.
Mick Jagger and the other guy,
David
David
Bowie.
and
Bowie.
then it's weird to refer to David Bowie as the other guy, but
Yes.
Right, I was
Yes,
gonna
it
say,
is.
some other guy. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this guy, pretty obscure. Yeah.
and then it was, that what's that called? It's like that instructional song where it's like, "Slide to the left, slide to the right."
That's the electric slide?
No, that's different. That's like from the I don't even know when that's from.
Now, Jared, uh, one thing that really struck me, again, a couple days ago when you were talking about this was how in general, I think you were saying attitudes have changed where people are just really gracious and nice. Strangers seem to, I think you said it in your own words, like you. That was an odd
Mhm.
thing to say, but can you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, this is probably just my own experience, but since I've moved to the Northeast and lived there for a few years, people are just like generally they're kind in a way that I'm not used to. You know, they're not just like offhandedly nice. They're actually like trying to be genuinely nice, and I'm just like, "What's going on here? What do you want from me?" And so it almost disturbs me because I'm like, "What did I do to make you want to like come and be nice to me?" And
That's
then I
right.
Mhm.
think it's just like it might just be like a California thing, but not that I've ever had like crazy bad experiences in California, but it's just like people are different there. They're like a lot more um open. I guess they're like more like friendly. You know that old stupid thing people always say about like if your car breaks down in California, they'll say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, can't help you." And then in like the Northeast or the Midwest, they'll call you an idiot while helping you.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like it really is like that over there. So I'm always like a little bit off put by it. I'm like, why are you being so friendly? This is weird.
Okay, I didn't actually realize that was a Northeast versus Southwest thing. I thought it was just in general you were noticing people as you got older, being nicer to you than when when you were a kid.
Maybe people are generally nicer now. I think it's probably because they assume there's something wrong with me, you know, and they're like, oh, I better be nice to him.
Well, I mean, I think Jared, a lot of us, and you inherited this from me, and I'm so sorry, but um, Deanna calls me out on this all the time. I'm sure Chris has noticed it, but you, me, your brother Hayden, we go off on these sort of deep thought daydreams constantly. And to the untrained eye, it literally looks like you're having a fugue state or a stroke, right? It just looks like, oh my God, should I call someone? Are you okay? I just sort of drift off. And I bet that's part of it is people are thinking like, are you okay? Like cognitively, they're just like checking on you. How many fingers am I holding up? Are you, do you need help?
Weird you mention that because all the time, my girlfriend's dad will just like see me because I like go off like I just daydream, and he's like, "Are you okay? Can I get you anything?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just."
Some smelling salts, the number of a doctor in urgent care, a glass of orange juice.
I have a logistics question for your walking, Chris. When you were little and they said you were a good walker, how were you walking if you put two of your legs in the same pant leg?
Oh, oh, nice pull. That is a very deep cut.
Excellent pull, and not well, that's how good I was, Jared. I could walk with 2 legs in 1 pant leg. I didn't have to walk very far before it was noticed that I had done that, but, yeah, that's how skilled I was. Man, I'm catching strays here. Jared just pulling he had that one saved you had that one saved up, didn't you, Jared? And I walked right into it. I walked right into it.
Well, you tried to, Chris, but with both your legs and one pant leg, it's not easy. For those of you that
Yes.
don't know what the hell we're talking about, you would have to go back about 30 episodes. But Chris once
Oh,
told
at
the story
least.
of getting dressed up for Easter Sunday, and he's a little kid.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, he's a little kid. He's in
Yeah.
what Chris nursery school or kindergarten or whatever. He comes out to the backyard all dressed in his Sunday finest, and he's shuffling along, and they can't quite figure out what's wrong until they realize that Chris has put both of his legs into a single pant leg. Now listen, this still cracks me up to this day, and it must have stuck with
Mhm.
Jared because I get it. You're a kid, but Chris, come on, both legs in the same. It just at that point I would have definitely said we need to take Chris in for a special test, but did your parents ever think, didn't your dad ever shake his head and go, we might want to take him in and get him tested, get him looked at? They didn't have an MRI back then, but something. That's just, Chris, that's fucked up, man. I don't
Like,
even
hey,
know how to,
yeah,
both legs on the same
you
pant leg.
think
All
it's
right.
easy? Let me see you try it. You may mock me now, but yes, let me see you try that. And I don't know, but excellent pull by Jared. But let's move on. Okay, since now that's been documented on more than one.
Well, Jared, I'm going to throw it back to you because one of the things that we only have discussed randomly every once in a while is comic books
Mhm.
and how much fun they were and a big part of our youth and our childhood, especially growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But you yourself are a comic book aficionado. And I know that you, again, have a big question here for Chris, and you would like to ask him a few questions. So please let me hand it over to you, sir.
I will say I have read my share of comics. I might not say I'm an aficionado, but I have read some pretty good ones. I was my first question, Chris. My first question out of 12. One of the earlier episodes, you guys got on the subject of comics, and then
Hmm.
you pulled back. You're like, "Oh, we're not going to talk about that," because you said you had a lot of comics. What are you keeping from us with the comics?
Yeah, Chris.
Well, I think it was just rather auspicious start to my collecting, and like your dad, I had older brothers, and so I had an older brother who sort of first of all sort of spurred my interest in comic books. I'm like 7 years old, and I got an allowance, and it was 25 cents a week. A whopping 25 cents a week. So, and so of course, what would I spend my 25 cents on? Was I'd buy comics, right? You'd buy essentially one comic because that's all you could get. The next Monday would roll around, and I would earn this allowance by doing basically by making my bed every day and by emptying the trash cans in the house, that like the bedroom trash cans. Uh, those were my chores, and every Monday I'd get a shiny, and it's a shiny. I'd get a quarter straight down to 7-Eleven to buy comics. And I got a little bit impatient with a sense. It's like I'm because I read them quickly and I'm getting obsessed by them. And it's just like, how can I get more comics? So I turned to crime. And the crime I turned to was essentially
Nice.
I noticed
Nice.
what happened is like my dad had this bank. Okay, what we would call a piggy bank, but it wasn't a pig. It was this like lion's head. Okay, it was a big red lion's head, and it was heavy. It was ceramic. And I don't know what you knew about these banks back in those days, Jared. And they would have a little plug at the bottom, and you have to pull the plug out, and you could shake out some coins. So I decided it's like my dad's got that piggy bank, got that lion bank. So I just started helping myself to just basically get out, a quarter or, a couple of whatever I would do to just get a couple of dimes. And it was sort of the gateway to like, well, this week I got a quarter, I got another quarter. And then a couple days later, I'm going, I'd really like to go down to 7-Eleven again with my buddy Joey and let's go get another. So it started turning where I was going into that bank 3, 4 times. So, and I'm accumulating comics, which is hilarious because nobody seemed to notice. Okay. But my comic collection, which was already, because again, I had an older brother, was just getting bigger and bigger to the point. And so this kind of went on for a couple of months. And at this point, I'm getting, rather than one comic book a week, I'm getting like 5 because at that point, I'm all in. It's like, I got to get a fix. I got to go get some more coins out. Finally, my brother kind of catches on to what I'm doing. And he's like, are you getting coins out of the Red Lion? It's like, no. It's like, of course I'm doing that. So he's like, it's like when that gets full, dad like takes all the coins and they roll them. You used to be able to have to put like coins in these paper rolls, and then you could take them
Yeah.
to the bank and get cash, right? And he and mom go out to dinner. He does that every couple of months, and I'm like,
This would have been great information earlier.
right, right. It's like it's pretty light. You don't think he's going to notice? At that point, I'm like, oh shit. So what do? I was like, I'm thinking I got to start replacing this cash, right? What am I going to do? I've got no money except I had my own bank that had like pennies and nickels. Of course, I never thought to me to use those to buy comics, but there wasn't that many. I needed the quick fix. So, but I'm panicky. So I need to make that red lion heavy again, right? Now, at this point, this has probably gone on for 6 months. I've probably easily accumulated
Oh my
50.
lord.
I probably accumulated 50 or so, illegal comics. So I fill it with like pennies and nickels.
You're basically Indiana Jones. You're taking the sandbag and you're trying to stick it next to the golden idol, trying to measure it out to see. Okay, sorry, continue.
Right. So I think I've solved the problem. The red lion's heavy again. I've replaced it, and I have to kind of cut back on my comic consumption. But that turns around. The time comes for my dad to empty out the Red Lion and go, make some get the cash and take my mom to I don't know wherever the hell they went to Sizzler or whatever they did for dinner. And I hear this voice hear my dad's unmistakable, "What the hell?" And so I'm kind of like, so immediately that was sort of a cue to you're summoned because like everybody in the house went running at that point. And my dad's dumping out the Red Lion and it's full of like mostly pennies and nickels. And I'm sitting there, it's like, okay, nothing to see here. Now, unbeknownst to me, but actually known to my mom and my brother, my dad didn't put pennies or nickels in there. He only put dimes and quarters. So he immediately, my mom would take the nickels and pennies and give them to me for lunch money, for milk money, because as your dad and I have discussed, you could get milk at school for 7 cents. That's what she would use the nickels and the pennies and give me 7 cents to buy chocolate milk. So immediately I was busted. My brother knew this and didn't tell me, um, threw me under the bus right there, and I was immediately caught. I had to not only my allowance was ceased for like 3 months. My dad made me go to the bank. They said, "Where'd you buy?" Which was just like I had to show my stash of comics. They did the rough math and had to go down to the bank called Great Western, and out of my own bank account, withdraw the cash that I had spent on comics and give it to my dad so my mom and dad could go to Sizzler or wherever the hell they went for dinner. So, but that was essentially it was the great my I was it was kind of a setup because again, my brother could have told me, but he knew what I was doing. He let me take the fall. I still got to keep the comics. I didn't get, allowance for several months as punishment, and I still kept collecting comics at that point. But it was built. I sort of built. I went legit
Yeah.
basically. I built my foundation of my collection on crime, and then I turned straight. So that's essentially how my collecting began. So it's rather a long-winded story, but I can remember it very vividly to this day.
I gotta say, Chris, not only was that an incredible story and journey with a 3 act structure and a climax, but I'm also curious which of your comics are dirty comics, and if you can remember which ones are, if you were to look at them.
Oh god, well, these are I mean, keep in mind I'm like 7, and keep in mind I'd have to go back and look because I still have, again, a ton of those. The ones some of them eventually fell apart. They were probably at that point, it was the all favorite DCs. It was Superman and Batman and some Justice League and some World's Finest and things like that, and, all from the local 7-Eleven, which in itself, just as an aside, there was nothing me and my buddy Joey, who were both 7, and and would walk to this 7-Eleven by ourselves that was
Mm.
probably a mile from our house and then go back. Nothing to it. Yeah, no problem. You don't see, 6, 7-year-olds won't walk down the street by themselves anymore, but so, yeah, so those are again, that was the foundation of my comic collection, and I just kept going from there.
I I gotta say, in looking back on that story, my favorite thing about it is the level of escalation in your
Mhm.
dad's mind, where he's literally talking about chump change to go out to eat, probably at like you said, Chris, a mediocre restaurant at best. Nothing against your dad. I'm sure they were just, trying to be thrifty. They weren't going to Mr. A's, right? Or anything
Right,
like
the
that.
butcher shop.
But
Right.
just the fact that it was now I get it, it's theft. It is theft, straight up. We got to say it, it's theft.
Mhm.
But it's just so funny to me that it's at this level of escalation when at the end of the day, like you said, it's really just the all you can eat buffet at Sizzler is the amount of money
Mhm.
we're talking about. But to your dad, it's like
Right.
the Red Lion has been, you know, broken into. We're going to go
Right.
march down to that bank. I'm going to pull out
Uh
every penny. How could you do this to me? It's just like, dude, relax. Have you been to Sizzler? Fucking chill out, man.
in a lot of cases too, it's that the cover up was worse than the crime, right? Because not only did I take the coins, but then I replace it with coins of lesser value, right? Nickels and pennies, and was too dumb to
Yeah.
realize that I had never seen a nickel or a penny because every time I pulled that plug and shook a few coins out, it was always quarters and dimes because I didn't realize the back system going on. But my brother knew that system and let me just walk right into a trap.
You, Chris, back then, for this instance, you seemed like you were like a first year thief, whereas your older brother, he was a professional.
No, I think he was more of a confidential informant. I don't think he was a thief at all. I think he liked seeing other people get busted, you know,
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
you
say,
know,
your brother sounds like a bit of a snitch. This is like the 3rd or
well,
4th story where your brother or your sister is openly, gleefully, willingly, happily ratting you out and throwing you under the proverbial bus. I don't know.
This is like a Brady Bunch episode.
Yeah.
strangely enough, one time I'm in LA, I'm at my cousin's, and my cousin went all in, um, and took a 20 out of my aunt's purse, and we went to his and we bought $20 worth of comic books all at once from, like, the liquor store down the street, and, of course, that crime was that was lasted about 11 minutes before we got busted on that, but I remember at the time going, "Yeah, I don't know if this is a good idea," and, yeah, so that was, yeah, so I had learned my lesson, but I was a repeat offender apparently.
I had a friend, when I was about 9 or 10 who had $40 cash on him, Chris, 2 20s, and
Mhm.
none of us questioned for 1 second where he got that money. It never even occurred to us, what the hell is a kid our
Uh-huh.
age doing with 2 crisp $20 bills? And so we're at Save On drugstore, and it is just a bacchanal, man. It is drinks on the house, except in this case, it was like, I'm gonna get a triple scoop. I'm gonna buy some stuff for my bicycle. Oh my God,
Mhm.
we're gonna go over to this section and buy a bunch of action figures, and everyone's just like,
Mhm.
dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun, and nobody asked questions. We were maybe too dumb or too smart to ask questions, and of
Uh-huh.
course, it was what you just said. He ripped it off. He just took it out of his mom's purse, and there was
Mhm.
major retribution later. I didn't see that guy for another 3 months, but
Mhm.
I never had to take back the shit. And again, I love the fact that his friends were more than happy to enjoy the spoils and knew better than to ask questions. Just take the money, man.
What your dad is describing, like a $20 bill went a really long way. You know, even like a couple quarters at
Oh,
7-Eleven
yeah.
was, I can get baseball cards, I could get a pack of gum, I could get a co you could stretch it out. 50 cents, a dollar? Forget it. You could go on a shopping spree at 7-Eleven. So 40 bucks. 40 bucks. These guys are right. You're like, it's one of those, right? It's like you're like Rockefeller walking in there.
I don't wanna freak you out, Jared, but there was a time when Chris and I were kids where $1 would get you 8 full-size Snickers bars, 2 for a quarter. 8 Snickers bars for a dollar? Are you kidding me?
Nowadays, it's $3 for the large bar, and the large bar is just 2 small bars put into the same package.
There you go. You see? Jared has the soul of a grumpy person. That's what I love.
All right, so Chris, I've got a few comics from my dad's collection that I pulled just for this episode. I took all of like 45 seconds to find these because I knew exactly which 3 comics were the most interesting ones. All right, so the first one I'm going to show you. I'm
Mhm.
not sure how valuable these are, so I'm hoping you can appraise them. You know,
That I don't know I could do.
here's the first one. We got Venom.
Mhm.
It's reflective.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with this particular
I
series?
I'm familiar with Venom, I'm familiar with the character. I think is that a it's familiar with I think is that Todd McFarlane who did that? Or
Um,
maybe Rob Liefeld, one of the 2. I mean, the problem with these is that literally, if I look at it, it's promoted this is issue number 1 in his own limited series, and the value in these is comic books became valuable when they were rare, right? When there was limited printing and stuff like that. These they would print hundreds of thousands of these comics. So to the point of like, oh, this is his, he's in his own limited series and it's number 1. And this is, yes, it's got the reflection, the reflective, doohickey on there. It's not worth a lot. It's worth probably a few more bucks probably than what the cover price is, but to me, it's like they were literally built to be and sold as collector's items and rare, but if there's tens of thousands of them out in circulation, they're not rare, right? They're not hard to find.
yeah,
You could go, so it's just like, yeah, maybe cool, you like the character, and yeah, it might look kind of you like the artwork and the story and this a villainous character, right? There's been 3 Venom movies when he's actually a villain, or he started out as a villain, but he was so popular at that time, they gave him his own series. Kinda cool, and different, 'cause and again, he was born from Spider-Man, right? He's got, like, a Spider-Man-like costume, so he's Spider-Man adjacent.
Jarod, do you like how Chris starts off where it doesn't seem like he may know too much about it, but he knows so much in general about how comic books are and they work, and he still knows that it's probably one of 2 different styles or writers or artists or whatever. So, Chris, what you think is minimal knowledge is pretty impressive, I will say. Well, Jarod, hit him with another one. Let's see.
All right. Well, sorry, Dad. Looks like that really cool comic is probably worth about $5.
That's okay. I was that's not part of my retirement plan. Okay.
I don't know how old this particular one is, or if this is like a reprint, but here's like a Jimmy Olsen,
Mhm. Now that is cool.
and this Jimmy Olsen's a hippie in this one, and Superman's calling him a dirty hippie on the cover. Let me see. Let me read this real quick. I thought you were my pal, Jimmy. Why have you joined this hippie gang against me? And it's called Hippie Olsen's Hate In.
It's a hate in instead of a love in, a hate in. Oh my gosh.
I mean, 10 it looks like a 10, but I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, this is obviously, I mean, 12 cents. This is from probably what, the late 60s, I think, if it's 12 cents. Um, Couple of things. Superman had Jimmy Olsen had his own comic. Lois Lane had her own comic. I love it on so many levels because it's such a product of the time. And at the same time, it's way off. It's way overdone and not even remotely accurate, right? When what hippies really were. The we hate money? Is somebody picketing money? Somebody's protesting money?
Yeah, it says right here, we hate money.
And are they misspelling? Oh no, it looks because of mine. Yeah, it's literally like we
The
hate.
red one.
Okay, yeah, we hate money. I I love that, man. The hippies hate money, man. Don't you see? They hate money. We hate Superman and we hate money.
By the way, I love just the sheer propaganda of it, where you're taking hippies who the worst you could say about them, where they were actually kind of aimless and largely on drugs and really just sort of stalled out. But to the best of what you could say about them, they did have this love your neighbor as yourself, free love, empathy thing. And in the comic book, they're basically a terrorist group. It's like it's just I don't know where it's odd. Huh? Luckily, you don't see anything like that today.
Wait, what's on the back page?
Look, you want to see the ad? Look at
Yeah,
that.
look at that. Yeah, make money, get prizes. Love it. That is again a product of the time.
By the way, I'm just going to say really quick, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen are a dangerous addiction. Those comics are basically the National Enquirer of comic books. Every cover is the most outlandish, craziest, even for a comic book. It's like, Lois, your twin sister is now my nephew's son. How did you know that you cloned yourself and now you're my own grandmother and you've traveled through time and now there's 700 Lois Lanes? How could this be? Every single one. Jimmy, you're now a giant turtle. How did this become this way? And it's just,
Mhm.
it's mind blowing. I think the Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane comics are some of the best, most fun comics out there, frankly. And they're so
Well,
effing ridiculous. They're amazing.
well, because by their nature they had to be that way, right? Because by their nature they're not. She's a reporter. He's a cub photographer or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like they're not doing anything else. So he has to turn into like a minotaur or something like that to make it even remotely interesting.
Okay, so this last one, um, and this is actually my favorite superhero of all time. And this is the same as my dad's favorite superhero. And there's no like he didn't tell me that this was my favorite superhero. He just said this was his favorite, and I looked into it, and I realized that he was correct that this is the best superhero, or at least the best superhero concept. Can you? I'll give you one guess, Chris, real quick. It's a DC hero.
Um, I don't know. It's not the atom because I know your dad has problems with small bug like things. Um, it's. I'm gonna go with the
Nice.
Flash, maybe. Um,
Oh, that used to be my favorite.
okay, okay. Who is it? Who are we talking about here?
My favorite superhero is the Green Lantern, and here's a really weird Green Lantern comic book cover I could not help but show you. What the hell is this?
Ah, okay. Oh, oh.
Explain that.
He's probably got money, is what I'm thinking.
Green Lantern Corps, okay, which is yeah, it's great. What are the Green Lanterns? They're like space cops, right? And at first, we just had the initial. We had Hal Jordan, in the '60s, and earlier than that, there was Alan Scott, who was the first Green Lantern back in like the '40s, right? The Justice Society
Wow,
and all that
nice.
stuff.
Mhm.
So, but then they came out with it's they're space cops, so right, so there are other Green Lanterns, right? And so they're also going to be what? They're going to be aliens, which again now makes sense why it would be your dad's favorite because your dad loves UFOs and aliens so much. And I'm glad that maybe you took the same perspective, or maybe you just liked it because you always wanted a power ring, which the power ring in itself is awesome because right, you charge it up for 24 hours, you say the oath, and then you can basically whatever you think can kind of come out of the power ring, right? You can make a big boxing glove, or you can make a big net, or whatever you need, a baseball, whatever you need to basically, be a superhero and you can fly.
The reason that I love Green Lantern is because the one thing you have to be able to harness the Green Lantern's ring and be able to use it effectively is, does anybody know? What is the character trait that you have to have?
Willpower.
Thank you. And willpower, to me as a kid, really kind of sums it up, right? If you can focus your energy, if you can push enough meaning and intent, right, you can actually summon or conjure a reality. And so as a kid, I loved the idea of manifestation, of collapsing realities into the one that you can envision for yourself, of parallel dimensions and universes. And every day of your life, you have the choice to go in the direction that you want. All you have to do is exert the willpower. So I don't know, for some reason it just hit
Mhm.
home. I'm like, you know what? That is a cool idea, right? Give that ring to
Mhm.
anybody else, they don't have the focus to do it, man. So,
Right.
You guys will be very excited because there's a new, I think it's HBO series coming out. It's going to be the Lantern Corps. It's going to be a buddy cop show with Hal Jordan and John Stewart.
Yeah. Kyle Chandler, I believe, is Hal Jordan. Um,
It's going to be so cool.
oh wow, Chris is already way ahead of it. Chris, I think as we kind of wind down on this episode, I was going to say one kind of interesting thing that has never happened on Nice Poll. I think we're going to take the show out with the guest still being in the liquor cabinet, right? We didn't send him away. He's still here, and this would be the first time that we're going to end with the liquor cabinet open. How would that be? Just to do something a little different.
Yeah, we've kinda drained the liquor cabinet, I think, at this point. But, um, first yeah, and now I think back at it, it's like, great to have, Jarod on the show, great to have a younger voice and a younger perspective, at the same time, a voice and a perspective that kind of aligns with ours, or aligns a lot with ours, and I don't know if that says, you know, more about him or more about us, but everything we've talked about for whether it was, our open spaces and our and mall experiences and talking about a love for comic books and the prices, things that we used to be able to what that we valued and minor lives of, experiences with crime. Um and and again, I love the fact that that Jarod shared, even at the ripe old age of 26, that he's got some ailments that you and I could both relate to. And just a word of wisdom, Jarod, it doesn't get any better. Just keep that in mind. So again, so great having Jarod on the show. And he's got an open invitation to come back anytime he likes. And maybe we should get more family members on this show, or not. Maybe not.
You gotta get him to actually watch the show first.
That's
Yes, I
true.
think that should be the
That's how it has
requirement.
to start.
That should be. Maybe we should have
Yes.
a quiz. Maybe we should have like one of the Jeff. Maybe we should have one of those quizzes if you want to get on our show. Here, we're going to give you a timed, quiz, to see if you qualify. But that was great. So, Jarod, thanks for dropping by. I hope it wasn't too uncomfortable in the liquor cabinet. That was enjoyable, and I hope we get to do it again. Until next time, Jeff.
Until next time, Chris, and until next time, Jarod.
Until next time, Chris, and until next time, Jeff.
Wait, Jeff?